right. Hello, everybody. This is Matt Orozco from Macabre Daily here. Super excited to have another interview for you all with writer-director Scott Sloane, who is the filmmaker behind the upcoming found footage horror film Malibu Horror Story. And this is releasing on October 20th, 2023. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us about the film.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Well, just I know this doesn't come out when we're recording this a few weeks before release, but I just got done taking a look at the film and got to say, as someone who's not a big found footage fan, generally, I actually enjoyed this a lot more than the average found footage film. So really enjoyed where you went with everything, and congratulations on what is your first, I think, feature length debut. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and I appreciate that. Thank you, man. I especially appreciate because found footage it's kind of an acquired taste for most, and I appreciate the crossover or the giving it a shot, good college try, and I appreciate the fact that you enjoyed it. So yeah, that's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of films that just go all in, and this one certainly does. Obviously, we're going to try and avoid spoilers here, but it reminded me a lot of films similar to Behind the Mask. It kind of shared that point of view of having kind of that meta approach of we're going to look at what the actual kind of vlogger experience is, mixed with a little bit of the found footage, mixed with the kind of narrative form. So, was kind of curious, what was your original inspiration for the film?
Oh, so it was sculpted over time. So when you talk about the final product, it's hard to say that there was an inspiration to make it the way it actually came out. It actually started back in 2009 after Paranormal Activity came out in October. It was around Halloween. I went out, wrote a 100% found footage script called Malevolent, went out and shot it for about $50,000. Had kind of a movie, I guess you could say. Nothing I was really, super excited to show anybody, but enough of a movie that you could tell it was a movie. Let's just say that. And basically, when that was done, we knew we kind of had kind of a proof of concept piece to show around. And so we got a little bit more money and did pretty much the same script. And we called that one the Malibu Tapes. And that was around 2015 to 2016 that we finally finished that. And so we had that version, again, similar to the original script. And that the inspiration in just that script was just basically wanting to make a fun 100% kind of reality point of view, feels real kind of found footage film. And so after we finished the Malibu Tapes, we learned very quickly that we were kind of at the tail end of the whole bubble kind of bursting as far as theatrical success, and it had become oversaturated at that time. So it's, you start before everybody, but you kind of finish after everybody. That's the independent game for you. And so, basically, once that finished, we kind of had to go back to the drawing board. This is where the creative process had to kind of mix with what we already had in the can. So basically, ghost hunter shows, paranormal investigators, true crime was all becoming very popular between 2016 and 2019, right? It was kind of blowing up. It was everywhere. So the decision for me was, we had a couple test screenings for the Malibu Tapes, and everybody's like, hey, we really like it, but found footage is, the shaky camera, like, can you slow this down a little bit or do something different? And so basically figuring out a way to take the Malibu Tapes, condense it down to about 35 or 45 minutes, and then put it inside of a kind of a ghost hunters TV show / YouTuber paranormal investigator thing, and then put that inside of a traditional horror movie was the idea, so that maybe a broader horror audience and someone just like you who's like, hey, I'll watch the found footage movie, but it's not my favorite, right? They got overdone. And so the delivery of that was not by choice. So I can't actually say that there was an inspiration that led me to make it the way it turned out. It's a Frankenstein of a picture that took a very long time in post to make sure that all the layers weaved, basically came together and felt kind of seamless, or at least I tried to make it feel seamless. And so it's hard to really say there was an inspiration for that, because it was really just time shaped and molded the industry, audiences, a lot of things shape and molded this into what it is now. So I can't actually take credit for the way it is now, although I can say when you make a movie for 10 years, you know, a lot of different things happen over that. Technology changes. There's 30 different cameras were used making this picture. So, you know, a lot went into it, but yeah, the sole inspiration originally was just making a fun found footage movie about a group of kids that graduate and go missing on graduation night, and then it turned into what it is now, which is kind of completely different than that.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, first of all, it's fascinating that over 10 years this thing has taken shape, because I think that that's what we often, I think the general public often assumes that films are made relatively quickly, and in some cases they can be, but more often than not, they aren't. And usually, when it comes to the independent side, some of the times these ideas will be on the hopper for, decade plus, where you're not just iterating, you're changing, you're trying to keep it current. And so I think what should be kind of a testament to the success of the film is really that even though this is something you've been working on for 10 years, it does very much feel like it's of today and doesn't have any of those artifacts that would make someone think, oh, this is just something that's being kind of adapted over time, but still doesn't have so much of a sense of place where it's going to be bound to this moment. I think really good found footage exists beyond which the period which it might have made sense. Blair Witch Project being an example, it's still a very effective film, even though we know that camera technology is so much better. So I was curious about the locations you used to shoot the film, because they're very, cavernous and very interesting. Were you shooting in and around the Malibu and the mountains area, or were you doing this kind of totally on sets, or where were you looking for?
So, you know, again, over a 10-year period, I would say the backdrop of the movie, pretty much the bulk of the movie, the foundation, all shot in Malibu, in the Malibu canyons, in the Malibu hills, all over Malibu, and a little bit of Santa Barbara, because the a lot of these things kind of trickle up the coast. As far as creating the cave system that we really wanted, when you start to feel claustrophobic and it starts to twist and turn and windy and look, and in that area, that is actually a cave built on Blue Cloud's movie ranch out in Santa Clarita, near Six Flags in the Valencia area.
Okay.
That is a full-blown movie ranch. There is the Iron Man set. There's all the different sets are all around, and companies rent it out and use it. That cave was built for the TV show called Weeds back in the day, and we added on to the cave. So we actually spent so much time shooting there and spent so much money that we actually were able to build on to the cave and kind of give it that kind of crazy maze feel. And then when you see the cave that has the big open areas, kind of where they're camping and a lot of scenes take place, that is the original Adam West Bat Cave from the original Batman, Adam West Batman. And that is right below the Hollywood sign, believe it or not, in Hollywood, California, in Bronson Canyon Park.
Wow. That is kind of a tour of Southern California right there, because I don't live in Southern California anymore, but when I did, I was very much thinking to myself, there are so many places in the Malibu hiking trails where, I mean, they just have, there's that old, it's a camp of like Nazi sympathizers who are living out in the Malibu mountains. There's just a bunch of crazy shit that's out there.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird out there for sure. There was a lot of stuff we shot, in the middle of the night. And yeah, there's some scary stuff out there for sure. It's pretty weird. There's probably a million different Malibu horror stories if you get to
But I think that's what works about it so much, is that you read the title, and I think again, even people that live in Los Angeles will still kind of look at it like, oh, Malibu, this has got to be about a very specific type of place or person, and to that end, there is some of that, but also you have some really good kind of chemistry with your characters, both the group that's kind of gone missing to start, and then the group of vloggers, investigators coming to investigate. Now, how hard was it to find folks that were able to fit these roles and had the right kind of chemistry?
So with the original four kids, the four boys that go missing, the ones that I've been shooting since 2010, that was like an all-out casting search where you're looking for complete unknowns. You don't want anybody to be recognizable, and you want them to feel authentic, real. They've got to be really good with improv. They improvised a whole lot, and there's chemistry tests amongst the four. So basically each one, Carlos, Carter, Tyler, and Jake, they're all bits and pieces of friends I grew up with. So it's basically kind of I grew up kind of a melting pot, and it's basically a little bit of everybody is mixed into that group. And so I needed to find people that reminded me of that. And plus, with just hanging out with them for so many years, like we all just became such good friends. There was a trust factor. And that's kind of with the 4 new characters, the paranormal investigators that kind of are like the amateur YouTube team or whatever you want to call them. They were either friends or friends of friends that I could trust. They were all established actors, all had a lot of credits, and they were either people I knew directly or through somebody, and people that I can trust because we didn't have enough time to audition or really rehearse even. So it was about bringing in just people I could trust and that I knew could do the job. And the chemistry, again, when you shoot, I got to shoot a couple times with the newer 4 as well. So it wasn't just a one-time deal. It was a 3-year period where we shot maybe 4 or 5
wow.
times. And again, that is just the struggle of independent filmmaking, folks. It is not as easy as you see with the Disneys and the Warners, and it's not like that. You are really grinding it out. Everybody's schedule has to align, and it's you got to raise money as you go and prove that you can do it. So yeah, it was a struggle, but yes, very much fun. And then with Troy and Doug, the 2 guys who play the creatures in the film, Doug was a well-known stunt and creature actor in about 2010, and just a good actor in general. And he got recommended to us through a friend, and he came in and was amazing. And Troy, I saw on Canadian's version of America's Got Talent performing, contorting, and it blew me away. And just to go how far back, he's already done like 8 big movies since then. But at the time that I saw him, none of like Scary Stories wasn't out. None of the Guillermo del Toro movies, Hellboy, Nightmare Alley, all that stuff. So he became, and he's huge now. Now he's in a lot of movies. He's in a lot of movies now. So.
I mean, that's kind of again a testament to the dedication, right? Is that you kind of started this with the people where they're in a certain place, and then they stick it out and follow it through. And I think you hit on a really salient point there that we talk to a lot of independent filmmakers on, through our site, and I think the majority of them say the same thing: is that it just requires a lot of dedication and persistence, and things are not going to go the way you want them to, or you're going to have to make concessions, but ultimately it's about the team you have, the people you're working with that are able to help create the shared vision. And to that end, about what are some of the things you think about reflecting over the past 10 years? What's been some of the most rewarding parts of this process for you now that you get to see it come to fruition, but also what have been maybe some of the most challenging bits for you?
I mean, the most challenging stuff was really just getting this thing made over a period of time. If you're going to do a movie, if you've got $100,000, you're going to do a movie, it is smartest for you to do it in 30 days because everybody can line up their schedule. You can knock it out, get into post-production and do it. When you spread this out over a course of so many years, you have so many liabilities, so many insurance policies, so to say, right? It can get really, really stressful. And just shooting independent film, time is your worst enemy. Like, you don't have a lot of time to get a million takes or this or that. And, you're not friends with your AD or your line producer or UPM because they're just constantly coming up to you saying, hey, you got to move on. And you don't want to move on because you want to get what you want. So those are the most challenging things. And the most rewarding things was probably this last year, getting to go to all the film festivals. We won a lot of awards in the festival circuit, and it was just really nice to just get to see it with people. And like I said, I call this kind of a Frankenstein picture because all these pieces had to come together. And in editing it, I was unsure of, would there be confusion? Is this too fast? Is this too slow? Does this make sense? Like, are all these pieces going to feel seamless? And so it was just really nice to see that, I didn't have a whole bunch of people being like, hey, I didn't understand your movie, or I didn't get it, or hey, I was lost. And so, and also you have to get this down into bite-sized pieces now, right? It's hard to make a horror film that's 2 hours plus. So
Yeah.
to get this down to I mean, if you take the credits out, this thing's only like 78 minutes long, it's barely 80 minutes. And so that was also a challenge to try to deliver it to you as fast as I could. So it wouldn't take up too much of your life, I guess, but very rewarding to see people just watching, just like you, like talking to you right now is extremely rewarding for me because it's like, whether you liked it or hated it, you watched it. And that's the reward right there,
Well, I think the pacing side of it works extremely well. And I'm someone who is kind of, I lead a charge to believe that 90-minute movies are just fine. Like we've kind of entered an era where 2 hours has kind of become the minimum. And I think that the efficiency of storytelling is really on display here. So I'm sure it was difficult to make those cuts, but I think from the viewing experience side, it does move at a pace that really doesn't allow you to disengage with it. And I think that's where any, genre film in particular loses people, is that it kind of pulls off the gas a little too much, and lets things simmer too long for that. It just doesn't, it's hard to get it back to that place of excitement. Now, we just got a couple more questions for you. The first one being a little more ambiguous, which is, do you believe in kind of ghosts and the paranormal? Was this more just your these are just your ideas out on screen?
So I like to consider myself like a fan of all genres, and so I grew up working at a video store, so I like to feel like I could make a movie in any genre, but there's something about horror that I gravitate towards, and I think it is because, yes, I do believe, and yes, when you're making one for this long, a lot of strange things happen, and from on-set things to Mother Nature to just scary stuff. So yes, I absolutely do. I know editing in the dark sometimes, just I've had a lot of experiences on this piece, and we've had a lot of people say that it's followed them, from set off. And but yes, I absolutely do. And there is a connection there. I think it's more of a curiosity, but there's also a general fear as well. So I could say that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I think that there's something unexplained, but at the same time, I'm just curious enough to be interested, but not too much to try and dedicate my life towards it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
that's for sure. But my last couple questions for you. I love asking this to questions because just to get a sense of how you would pair this up. So if you're programming this with a double feature, let's say this is playing, second, what are you putting before Malibu Horror Story?
Oh man. So I am, if you were to come over to my place, so I have a home theater, I'm an amazing double feature bill creator. Okay. So I could create a million double features from anything. With this particular, I've never been asked this question for this film. I it would be tough because, man, that's a really hard question. I Malibu Horror Story. So the title, so I didn't title this film. The title is very grindhousey, very different than what you see. Once you watch the film, you learn, oh, these guys are making a show, and the show's called Malibu Horror Story when you see that credit sequence. So I couldn't pair it up with anything. The bill would look like a grindhouse bill just based on the title. But if I was to actually pair it with something, I think I would have to do something that would be found footage, or that would be kind of mockumentary driven. But I don't know. That's a tough question. I don't really, I can't do a synopsis. I can't summarize my work. There's a lot of things I just can't do. And I could do it for anybody else, and I could give you a double feature, for anything else. But I don't think I could come up with a legitimate answer for that. Do you have an answer for that? Would you put something in a double feature with this?
I mean, I think I agree with you that this would have to gravitate towards a found footage film just because it feels like a nice tee up. I would even go so bold as to say something like a Blair Witch Project, only because it is kind of what I would consider like the beginning of modern found footage, and then this is kind of what we see is like Malibu Horror Story being kind of the present. So it's almost like a retrospective. The other would be the Outwaters. I was thinking of something more recent because it does have a similarity in kind of the sense of place.
Yeah, Robbie's movie, we played together at Panic Fest. I love the Outwaters. Outwaters to me is like, I was talking with Mary Beth over at Dread earlier about this today. It was one of my favorites. I got to see it premiere. We were at Unnamed Footage Festival as well, and it is like what I consider true found footage, but it took it to a different level, and it has a vibe about it. Right? It has a tone. Yeah, I'll take either one of those. I know those two are also great. I would say that the one movie that I did pull from, because I try not to watch anything over the 10-year period of editing, especially besides like Ghost Stories. The one thing I pulled from was The Descent. You ever seen The Descent?
Oh yeah.
So the glow sticks solely got introduced because of The Descent. So initially it was just a lantern in a cave, and when you just have a lantern in a cave, it ends up being a brown cave, and every cave you see is brown. And the first time I saw The Descent, I was like, man, they really figured out how to make these caves like look really cool with blues and greens and stuff. So if I was to compare it, even though it happened after As Above, So Below and The Descent, I definitely thought were like these underground. Someone else mentioned to me like The Ruins or, you know, any kind of cave movie. So but I will take Blair Witch for sure. That would be cool. Cause you're right. If you look at the whole spectrum, I do tell people this is kind of my love letter to found footage, because I have every possible, from security cameras to drones to police footage. I have every possible type of footage one could actually have in this. It's just so happens it's inside of a kind of a traditional horror movie. So yeah, I will take the Blair Witch or the Outwaters. That would be awesome.
Well, they're all great films, and like I said, you know, as someone who doesn't necessarily gravitate towards the genre outright, it's one that I'm definitely going to have a high recommend, and looking forward to putting our review together for. My last question is really just, you know, what's up next for you? I know you said you're a big film fan in general, so do you think you're going to do another horror film, or do you think you're going to expand out into another genre?
So I just wrapped. I just got back from Texas. I was in Texas for about a year, and it was 2 trips. So it wasn't a full year. It was two separate trips. We're editing that right now. That movie is called Alone in the After, and it is a slow burn American folk horror film that will be only 90 minutes as well. It could end up being closer to 2 hours. We'll see. But I really am a big fan of. So this was my found footage, like homage, like that I'm a fan of, and I'm a big fan of slow burn kind of folk horror, and I kind of want to do something like on American soil. So yeah, that's got some stuff. We'll be finished with that in like 2 months. And then I am directing a picture in November called Astroplane Drifter, which is a short film that won a bunch of awards in the circuit, and it is like a kung fu spaghetti western sci-fi kind of comedy. It's
Take my money.
yeah, it's out there, and it's very unique. It's very original. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then there's a couple other things lined up, but I have a lot of catching up to do after spending 10 years on one project. You know, I was damn near a quarter of my life, so I really kind of need to step it up now. So it's time to work.
I wouldn't be surprised you said, yeah, I don't want to touch found footage or the horror genre for a while because I've just been so immersed in it. But you know, I do want to say again, congratulations on behalf of just ourselves and our staff on this great feature. You know, we're looking forward to for everyone else getting a chance to see it. You know, we're quite fortunate. We've had a chance to see it a little ahead of everyone. But October 20th, the Malibu Horror Story be releasing in theaters nationwide. So make sure you go and check it out. Scott, thank you again for your time, the discussion. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to what the next couple of your projects you have coming up.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.